Pharmaceutical treatments are playing an ever-increasing role in the global fight against COVID. The most common complication that can result from COVID is sepsis. In fact, the World Health Organisation's figures suggest it affects nearly 50 million people every year. Recce Pharmaceuticals is a company tackling COVID, sepsis, and their compound is also proving effective in treating burns. Joining me is Recce's CEO, James Graham. Thank you very much for coming in today.
Good to be with you.
Now, James, tell me about the trials that you've got underway.
Yeah, we have a pipeline of development as an anti-infective that includes our topical burn work as a broad spectrum antibiotic application led by Professor Fiona Wood, intravascular administration focused on sepsis out of CMAX's Adelaide facility, and coronavirus activity out of a leading Australian government research institution.
Well, the pandemic has certainly been around for over a year now. What impact do you hope that you'll be able to have on that dreadful disease?
Look, we are an infectious disease company in the midst of a global infectious disease crisis. The hypermutation of cells, particularly the coronavirus cells themselves, which are not dissimilar to, say, the hypermutation of bacterial cells, is something our compound's unique mechanism of action has demonstrated to work against and keep on working against with repeated use. And that's a fundamental challenge of medicine as a whole, and I think puts us in good stead for the time ahead.
What makes your compound unique?
Well, it's designed with purpose, beginning with the end in mind rather than what's reliant on finding something in nature, makes us attracted to certain areas of the bacterial or viral envelope itself, and it interreacts no matter how that virus or bacteria mutate to try to survive. They always have, they always will. We're able to overcome those natural processes by designing our compound through synthetic rather than what's given to us from nature.
Well, it's obviously a real pleasure to have you here in our Perth studio. What are you doing in Western Australia today?
Look, I was actually just in at Fiona Stanley Hospital. They're utilising our compound on their vulnerable burn patient population there. It's amazing, young, old, male, female, small burns, large burns, chemical burns, hot burns. It's an enormous unmet medical need, and to be in there with the clinicians, see the patients, in fact, for the first time, seeing the compound in their pharmacy refrigerator, it's a really exciting time in the company. So without giving too much away, they're doing that today.
I mean, burns are horrific, and the damage that they can leave can be lifelong.
Yes.
Have you got something that can improve outcomes?
Many of these patients are reoccurring infections, so it's one thing to reduce the infection. The further the infection reduces disappears, particularly from the outside edge or crust as they call it, the faster the wound is able to heal. Now, an open wound in any form it gives rise to additional infection, which gives rise to further complications such as sepsis.
So what does Recce Pharmaceuticals compound mean for patients?
Look, it's a sign of new hope in the fight against coronavirus, sepsis, Helicobacter pylori, and complicated burn wounds.
Now, Recce has also just debuted on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. How did that come about and why?
Well, the company has really invested considerable time and effort in getting its compounds to an exciting clinical stage. That clinical stage across our programs now has real-world implication. So Germany, by example, which is really a gateway to the European region, is consistent with a number of activities, both our capital market activities. Investors are wanting to participate over here. If we can open up the doors and participate through a dual listing as we have done, that's attractive to us. The large pharmaceutical companies there, we've been in conversations with them for some time. We continue those, but to have the local domiciled access is important. But also to have the access to the major patient population within the region. And again, without giving too much away, it's for very strategic purposes that we align.
Well, thank you very much for that update. Now, what can investors expect to see from Recce Pharmaceuticals for the rest of this year?
The year, as historically, we have a brilliant track record of news flow. News flow not because we need it, but because there's a lot that goes on with our programs. We will have near-term clinical data. Most likely the first clinical data would be from the burns patients and Fiona Stanley Hospital that we were just at. There'll be intravascular human dosing occurring not too far away. There'll be coronavirus studies both locally and overseas. Murdoch Children's Research Institute utilising the compound as an oral solution for Helicobacter pylori. But what there won't be is there won't be a capital raising. We've got lots of money and we've got an excellent pipeline of drugs. So the quicker we can move them to the clinic and the news flow that follows, that should be an exciting time for the company.
Thank you very much for coming in to see us today. That's Recce Pharmaceuticals CEO James Graham here in Perth. Thank you.
Thank you.